Kiriwina Island is part of the Trobriand Island group located in the Solomon Sea. The island was an American and Australian air base during the Second World War. The population of about 12,000 islanders live in some 80 villages consisting of huts formed in a circle around a communal clearing. The majority of the population are amongst the poorest in the world. The Rotary Kiriwina Aid project was devised following 2 visits in order to discover the needs of the people with the priority of not interfering with their village way of life. A 3rd visit to the island was undertaken to seek approval of the 4-stage project that our team was confident that we would be able to complete. 2 40-foot containers with over 20 tonnes of tools and materials were ultimately sent to a container port on the mainland and then via small boats to the island. The first stage was to improve the facilities at the small 45-bed hospital by supplying them with manually operated hospital beds and associated equipment. Stage 2 was to supply a wash basin in each of the 4 wards, as there was only one tap for the whole hospital. The 3rd stage was to provide battery-operated power tools and materials to build 90 school desks and train the locals in operation of the tools and construction of the desks. Stage 4 was to provide a more sanitary toilet system at one of the primary schools. We also were able to complete a number of small projects, including the supply and training to install a solar power supply at the school to power a donated computer and printer, a medical microscope for the hospital to better diagnose TB, which was common in the area, about 200 boxes of clothing and school books, which were packed in between the beds in the first container. A pump for the school well and a 9,000 litre water tank which doubled the storage capacity of rainwater for the school were installed. Over 200 kilograms of emergency medical supplies were also transported to the island. Although it was rewarding to see our 4 major stages of the project completed, it was the smaller things that gave the most satisfaction. This is Ribs. He lived in this small hut. Ribs only had 1 leg. He would drag himself around in the dirt, sitting on a broadleaf to get around the village. We arranged for Ribs to get a wheelchair from Rotary donations in kind that was packed in with the beds in the first container. Ribs loved his wheelchair. He decorated it with flowers and would tie it to the doorway of his hut. Giving Ribs that wheelchair not only lifted him from the dirt, it lifted his self-esteem because he could now talk with his neighbours eye to eye. 3 months after Ribs received the wheelchair, he cut his leg. He did not seek medical attention and the cut became infected. Ribs was dying of septicemia. When he knew he was dying, he asked that the wheelchair be buried with him so he could use it in heaven, and that's exactly what happened. One evening the doctor arrived back from the hospital and sat next to me. He said, "I smelt the detergent today." I said, "What do you mean?" He said he was writing up patient records in the maternity ward and he smelt the detergent that I had supplied to the hospital maintenance man earlier that day. The staff had apparently been cleaning everything in sight. I supplied the cleaning products because on one of our discovery visits months before, I noticed that the sinks were still being used even though the taps were not working. They were very dirty, so I remembered to include some cleaning products in the shipment. The doctor told me that they always include detergent in their supplies order, but it never gets delivered. When the water tank was installed at the school, it didn't rain for 3 weeks. One afternoon, after the children were sent home from school, it started to pour rain. The head teacher who lives at the school said she looked out of her hut to see a couple of 100 students running back to school in the pouring rain. Some had umbrellas and some were just getting soaked. They all had one thing in common. They all had cups in their hands. They wanted to taste the water out of the new Rotary water tank. An ongoing result of the project, due to their newfound skills, is the ability of locals to make more school desks for the other 22 primary schools on the island. This is only limited by the funds to purchase more materials from the mainland. If anyone would like to donate extra funds to make more school desks, then please contact the Rotary Club of Rowville, Lysterfield.